the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and he joins us every Tuesday and Thursday. Good morning, Tony Messenger.
Good morning, McGraw. Good morning, Kelly.
Hi,
the sun
Tony.
did come up today, didn't it?
The sun did come up today, and the Cardinals got a win, and they started at 6 o'clock, and everybody got to see it. All right, let's talk a little big day today in the city of St. Louis. Let's talk for a moment about the legacy of the longest-serving mayor, Mayor Francis Slay. What are your thoughts as he says so long to a long career as mayor of the city?
Well, before we get to that, I mean, today I think is Lyda Cruisen's day, first day, first inaugural ever for a woman mayor of the city of St. Louis. That's a historic day, and it'll be interesting to see, what she has to say, and it'll be a fun little spectacle to see her, become the mayor today and make a little bit of history. So I'm looking forward to how she sets the tone for what kind of mayor she's going to be. She won a pretty divisive Democratic primary with far less than 50% of the vote. And so looking how she sets the tone, tries to build coalitions, sees what she can do to get to that 15-vote threshold on issues that matter to her, that's what really matters to me. Now, looking back at the mayor's legacy, longest-serving mayor, I mean, that's historic. That means that the voters had confidence in him, that the city went through, I think, a period of relative stability. And I think it's important if you turn back the clock a little bit, we tend to have short memories. And so what we look at is, what was the latest shooting? Well, we got Metrolink problems. We got violence problems. Boy, we had that guy shot after the Cardinals game, whatever. But if you actually look at both the violence trends and if you spend much time downtown in St. Louis, the difference between where we are now and where we were at the beginning of Mayor Slay's reign as mayor is pretty significant. There's a lot going on downtown. There are a lot fewer empty buildings. There's a lot more going on in the core of the city. So the yin and the yang of his legacy is, I think that things are much better than they were in terms of downtown growth, but you look a little bit to the north, and there's just not a lot going on until we start getting the MGA. You look a little bit to the south in that Gravois Park, Benton Park area, and there's some violence and some beginnings of some of the decay that took place up north. And so sort of like the history of St. Louis, we tended to take care of one area, primarily the Central Corridor, at sometimes the expense of the north and the south. So I think that has to be part of the mayor's balanced legacy as well. All of that being said, he ends with a couple of big wins. MGA going up north that will likely create some opportunity for some rebirth in that part of our city. The passage of Prop 1, which if it leverages that federal money and hopefully county money and hopefully even some state money, fingers crossed, to create that north-south metro link that is so important for our city's future, then all of a sudden those are big wins, and 20, 30, 40 years from now, the Mayor Slay's legacy is significant. And I think that's really when it's going to be written. History takes a long time to develop, and so I think it's a little premature to say what his legacy is. But I spent a lot of time walking downtown, and the mayor gave me a tour downtown several months ago, and pointed out what the place looked like when he took over as mayor, and it's significantly different.
No question. It looks differently. It's 16 years later. He's sitting in the seat. All the good, he gets the credit. All the bad, he takes the blame. But how much credit does he get for the Cardinal Stadium? Because the Cardinals did a lot of that themselves. How much criticism does he get for the Rams losing? It seems like he didn't have much power over that. How much credit does he get for Washington Avenue? That was kind of already in the works. That was federal funds. How much does he get for the historic buildings being renovated? That's a state tax credit. So the question is, how much did he actually move, and how much was he there just sitting it while others sort of led the fight for one thing and another?
It has such a broken government structure, sometimes just being that voice of stability and reason and guiding other people through the process is a pretty significant accomplishment. I would say that having served as mayor for 16 years, he gets a lot of the credit for that process. Now, there would be plenty who would blame him for Centene not being downtown, for instance, and ending up in Clayton.
Right.
There are some folks that say he didn't handle that properly. There are clearly some folks, it was part of a theme during the mayoral race, that believe the mayor has to take more blame than he's willing to accept for continued degradation of North Side neighborhoods that were once strong. Again, I think all of those things are going to play out over the next 10 or 20 years. But what's really going to be interesting for the future of St. Louis is how does our new mayor, Lyda Cruzan, who gets inaugurated today, get sworn in? How does she build on the parts of Mayor Slay's legacy that tend to be moving in a positive direction? And how does she stem the tide of some of the racial division and some of the degradation that's going on in some important South Side diverse neighborhoods right now, to make sure that St. Louis continues to be a place that builds from the core and doesn't just neglect the inner city while the suburbs start to grow.
16 years ago, Mayor Slay won an election that he ran against Clarence Harmon and Freeman Bosley. That was a very racially motivated election. 16 years later, Tony Messenger, it seems like we had another racially motivated election for the next mayor. So in terms of racial harmony, seems like we haven't gone very far in 16 years.
St. Louis is, in my experience, one of the most racially divided cities in terms of how open its racial politics are than any other place I've ever been. That being said, I think there are some seeds of progress. If you look at some of the voting patterns in this city over the last couple of elections and where white and black votes are coming from and which candidates are trying to draw votes from a diverse coalition instead of just pitting black versus white, I see some hope for some progress there. I don't know that this was the election that got us there. No doubt there is going to be a racial minefield for Mayor Cruzan to walk through. And she made an interesting choice the other day, staff-wise, to help her with that. She hired Nicole Hudson, who's been running the Forward Through Ferguson organization, which is the organization that came after the Ferguson Commission, to help her guide through racial equity issues. That's a good hire. That's going to, give her a good step forward in that position. Doesn't make the problem go away by any step of the imagination, but it gives somebody in her inner circle that helps advise her on how to deal with these issues and hopefully start bringing the city together a little bit.
Tony Messenger, never dull when you're on. Thanks for checking in. Have a good day.
Good to talk to you.
You got it. That's Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, who joins us every Tuesday and Thursday, contributor here at the Big 550, KTRS 827.